Welcome to Words to Ponder. The topic for today is sex. And while most of the conversations we have on here are somehow connected to Christianity and the Bible, I don't really think that today's conversation really needs to be tied to the Bible, although we are going to talk about that right at the beginning. Okay, disclaimer. This podcast, my target audience are other adults, people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and if you made it to your hundreds, that's good as well. This is not designed for children, so if you consider yourself a child, don't watch this episode. Although most of my episodes are quite okay for children to watch. I would not recommend the content for today's conversation to children, although nothing that I say today will be inappropriate. I might use some vocabulary words that are biologically, anatomically connected, but those are just conversation words. So I can almost guarantee that everyone who watches this podcast will disagree with me in multiple ways. And that's okay. That's okay. You do not have to agree with me. Although this is my podcast. I am Larry Ponder. I am the author and creator of Words to Ponder. So this is my podcast, and this is me sharing. I have many followers who actually engage with these podcasts and enjoy them and even look forward to them, even at times where we disagree. As we get started today, I have 5 points. Point 1, Bible. Point 2, sex and marriage disconnected. Point 3, real life. Point 4, do what I say, not what I did. Point 5, the goals of sex. So let's dive right in here. The first thing I want to talk about is the Bible. And while we use the Bible in many ways for study, for material to engage us, for material to perhaps convict us or guide us, looking at the writers of the Bible can many times be helpful. I'm not sure that using the Bible for a conversation about sex would be all that helpful. And I can already hear people say, oh, the Bible can tell you about everything, and everything it says about sex is cornflakes. The Bible does not really talk about sex. And if it did, or in the passages where we say it talks about sex, it's talking from a flawed sense of reality or a flawed sense of biology. What people knew and understood in Bible times was just wrong many times when it comes to the understanding of the human body. So, I don't think you can find enough material in the Bible to say the Bible tells us what to do about sex. In Bible times, if a man was interested in a woman, he took her into his bed or into his tent or into his sleeping chambers, and he had intercourse with her. Afterwards, if he was pleased and if he wanted, he could claim her as his wife. If he was not pleased, then he did not have to claim her as his wife. Now, she then would be defiled as no longer a virgin, and her brothers and father may come to his house and want financial restitution for defiling their sister and daughter. But it was completely up to that man whether or not he wanted to take this woman as his wife. That's biblical. Do I think that's how we need to pattern our lives today? No. How would you plan a wedding? You'd say, save the date for Saturday, but the man's going to take his partner into his bedroom the week before. And if he's satisfied, he will go ahead and marry her. If not, you can go ahead and release that date. There won't be a wedding. No, we're not going to do things that way. There was a lot of ignorance in Bible times. Women were treated as property, like cattle, like desks, like furniture, like lamps, like oil. We understand that was not God's plan, that women would be property. The writings in the Bible are very sexist in many places because the writings in the Bible were written by people who lived at that time with their beliefs. There are still some church denominations that believe that women are somehow a less smart and less type of creature, a less type of being, and cannot be equated with men. There are still people that believe that today. So it should not be a stretch to know and understand that in Bible times, the thought and position of women in society was very, very different than how it is today. We know today, or we should know and understand, that some people are male, some people are female, some people are not male, some people are not female, and that really doesn't have to do with really anything. So qualifying the importance or the authority of a person based on whether what is found in their underwear really doesn't have anything to do with anything. So when we look at the understanding of the people during biblical times, both Old Testament and New Testament, there was a lot of ignorance. Now, I'm not saying these people were stupid, and I've talked about this before on other podcasts. There's a difference between being ignorant and stupid. Someone is ignorant if they have not been taught or have not learned something. Someone is stupid if they're presented with the truth and they refuse to learn it or they refuse to accept truth. That's when it's stupid. But I'm talking about the people in here were ignorant. The whole male and female dynamic in their world was flawed. So pretty much anything anyone then says about sex really has no authority on me as a human. It really has no authority on you as a human. And you and I together can't get together and try and place authority on someone else based on what we get from people who already had an extremely flawed male-female dynamic in how the genders worked. When we look at the relationships we see in the Bible, and now I'm getting into my second point, sex and marriage being disconnected. When we get into these characters we see in the Bible, sex and marriage weren't connected. Also, sex, marriage, love, These are concepts that were not connected. And I know some of you say, oh, but we got the Song of Solomon. Oh, please, girl, sit down. Song of Solomon is not a love poem. If you really read and study the Song of Solomon, it's about a desperate woman. A modern word for that is that girl was thirsty. She was chasing after that man that she wanted. She had her eyes on that man. And I'm using pronouns and gender based on the story in the Song of Solomon. But you know what? There are some thirsty men too that have their eyes on someone that they want, and they are desperate for that person. And they chase them down so much that they turn them off. If there's someone you want and you continue to pursue them, and pursuing them, and they're not responding in the way you want, girl, stop. Sit down. Stop that mess. You're desperate. You're thirsty. Nobody wants a desperate person. And so to me, when I read the Song of Solomon, it's like, this girl would be crazy chasing after this man that she wants. And one of the quotes that I have I have written some devotions from the book of Song of Solomon, and one of my quotes that I say coming from that: if you have to compete in order to win someone's love, you've already lost them. If you think you're in competition for someone that you want, you've already lost the race. There's no point in that. Being desperate, just close the door and move on. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So anyway, when I look at the stories in the Bible, I don't find good examples of love and marriage, love and relationships, love and sex. I don't see any of that there. So if the Bible was really going to be a manual for sex, well, it missed the mark, because it doesn't combine those things that I believe are critical. Sex, marriage, love. Those are three concepts that, for them to be all that they can be, all that the potential that is there for sex and love, then they need to go together. Now, is there love that does not involve sex? Yes, absolutely. Is there sex that does not involve love? Well, we know that. We know that exists. But when they are together and combined together, that's where the magic happens. That should be the goal. And I'm already jumping to my point 5, and I haven't gone through point 3 and 4 yet. So let me kind of wrap up point 2 and then move on. In the Bible, sex and marriage is not connected in the examples that we have. In the Bible, sex and love are not connected. A man sending out their servants to go back to their family and find a wife for their son and bring her back. And then he goes and he talks about, hey, I'm looking for a wife for my master's son. What father would say, oh, okay, you brought me 12 goats and a bag of gold and some good bread and a bottle of wine. Yeah, you can have my daughter. Bye. Good luck on your life. Too bad you weren't a boy, because then you could still be part of my family. But now you're going to be somebody else's. So bye. It's absolutely insane. If you look at the examples of relationships in the Bible, they're absolutely insane. Some of them, if they weren't so sad, they would be comical. Now, I know what some of you are saying. I don't like that Larry. He's always trashing the Bible. I'm not trashing the Bible. There's a lot of good things in the Bible. And I started out right at the beginning. The Bible is good for study, for engagement, and for using it as material that helps us be convicted when we are doing something we should not do, or if we're not doing some things that we should do. There are a lot of helpful guidances in there. The number one thing throughout the whole Bible is God is a God of love, and we are called to love our neighbors and help people. Do no harm. The modern political church is so far from that you can't, if Jesus was here, he wouldn't even recognize it. Remember when Jesus was turning over the table because what people had done to the church? Boy, Jesus would have a heyday at most of our churches today. Okay, so sex and marriage is not connected in the story. Sex and love is not connected. There are little bitty snippets every once in a while where it looks like someone actually loves someone. I could say in the story of Mary and Joseph, Joseph had to have really loved Mary or had a love for Mary because he wanted to divorce her quietly because he didn't want her to be harmed. There goes our primary message in the Bible, do no harm. He didn't want her to be hurt. But when the angel spoke to him and said, no, don't be afraid to take Mary. Do you realize how much faith that would take for a man? And do you realize how much love that man would have to have? I say man, Joseph was basically what we would call a boy today, a teenager, and Mary was a girl, so it's a boy and a girl thing going on. But I can infer love in lots of these stories, but I think the Bible could have done much better by having some stories about people's sex life connected to their love life, connected to their marriage. But I do understand that's going to be difficult if some of the people we claim as our great patriarchs. Abraham had 3 wives. Jacob, the father of Israel, had 4 wives. Do I believe Jacob only ever had sexual intercourse with 4 women? No, there's no way I could believe that based on the life of their times. No. Did Abraham only sleep with his 3 wives? No, actually, technically, did he actually ever marry the mother of Ishmael? So maybe he only had the 2 wives. King David had 7 wives. We don't really believe he actually had any intercourse with his first wife, which was a daughter of Saul, the sister of Jonathan. We do see in the Bible where she was very jealous of David's relationship with Jonathan. Girl. we can talk about that in another time. In fact, I'm writing a book on a biblical query where I do look and I talk about David and Jonathan in there. I don't know if I'll ever finish that book. I'm not sure if anyone would want to read it, but I certainly am enjoying my study and putting my ideas down. Whether I'll ever get all that completely written with my vision problems, it's not very likely. Okay, on to point 3. Real life. Okay, so we've kind of talked about the Bible, all I'm going to in here, okay? Let's talk about sex in real life. And this is where if you're not an adult who's prepared to have a conversation about sex, then this is not the episode for you. You should go ahead and stop watching and come back in for the next podcast, which will be on a book of the Bible, and then the following week another topic in another book of the Bible. Sex in real life. Well, Sexual activity is not always one man and one woman. We can say, I believe all sex is between one man and one woman. Well, you're living in a fantasy land because sex goes on that's not between one man and one woman. There's gay sex, there's heterosexual sex, and there's a whole plethora of things that goes on in straight sex and gay sex. Sex is not just planting your seed so the baby would grow. That's biblical. Planting your seed so the baby will grow. They believed that all of life was contained in the male ejaculate, and that would grow inside the woman, just like you would take a tomato seed, plant it in the ground, and it will grow and make a tomato. So they thought the man was planting his seed. There was no understanding about the female having an egg that the man was fertilizing that created life. The woman was just a host for, if you would, the embryo or the parasite. You know, a parasite is something that's living, but it's growing on the host body. So you could argue that an embryo or a fetus is a parasite and the woman is the host. So that's other conversations we'll have later. But if you're looking at real life, what is sex? Well, sex is an activity involving the genitalia of two people. Or one person's genitalia and the other person's other, how do I say this without being X-rated? Their other, well, using their body in other ways for pleasure to one person's genitalia. Did you know some people are very selfish in bed and it's all about them? And they really like the other person just to make them the main course and please them, please them, please them. A lot of the perspectives in the Bible is all about the man being pleased. Take the woman into the tent. If you are pleased with her, if she done good, then you can claim her as your wife. If she didn't rock your world, she wasn't willing to do what you wanted her to do, nah, that's not for me. So, did you know there is sexual compatibility and there's sexual incompatibility? Not every man is going to be compatible with every woman in a straight relationship. Not every woman is going to be sexually compatible with any man in a straight relationship. In a gay relationship, not every woman is going to be sexually compatible with every other gay woman. Not every gay man is going to be sexually compatible with every other gay man. Just not true. Just not true. Now, I've never been a woman and I've never been a gay woman. So when I am speaking about women in sex, I am speaking hypothetically and theoretically. So if you are a woman or a gay woman and you think there are some things that I need to know, go ahead and put them in the comments here and I will read them and respond to you. Or if you know me personally, just have a conversation with me. Okay. Not everyone looks the same in their underwear. There is variation in genitalia, in both male and female genitalia. They don't all look exactly alike. And during sexual activity, they don't all feel exactly alike. They don't all stimulate exactly alike. That's just truth. That's just truth. The size of a male member and the size or depth of a female member are not all exactly the same. So they're not all going to be interchangeable. A woman with a very deep vaginal cavity is not going to be compatible with a man with a less than average penis, either in length or in girth. A woman with a short vaginal cavity is not going to be sexually compatible with a man who has a longer than average penis. That's just fact. Not every woman is aroused the same exact way. Not every man is aroused exactly the same way. Although men can sometimes be more predictable in arousal. So, in a straight situation, not every man is going to be sexually compatible with every woman. For some male-female couples, sex won't be any fun. Sex might be painful. Sex might be a chore. It might not be worth the effort. But guess what? Sexual urges and desires are real. And if you are partnered, if you are married to someone who is unable to satisfy your sexual needs, urges, what then? And I know there are people that they use the same argument with gay people. Well, God just calls you to be celibate. That's another bowl of cornflakes. God does call some people to be celibate, but God does not call all gay people to be celibate. And God does not call all straight couples to be celibate if they end up being married or partnered to someone who is unable to satisfy each other sexually. In real life, there is sexual compatibility. In real life, there is sexual incompatibility. I think, now this is me thinking, I don't know this for a fact, but I somehow think that in male-female relationships, there might be higher chances of finding a compatibility in sex. There is a misconception that, you gay people have it good. I mean, two men want sex all the time anyway, so just get together and have sex with everybody. That's really, really not true. I think it is more difficult for two gay men to find sexual compatibility than it is for a woman and a man. There are many, many variables to male-male gay sex. So finding someone with whom you're compatible with is not an easy task. Now, I've never been a lesbian, and I've never had a conversation with lesbians about their sexuality, but I somehow think that women with other women might have more problems with compatibility than man and a woman. But I also sometimes think that two women might find more sexual compatibility than a man with a woman, simply because a man doesn't know what a woman feels and therefore may not be interested in a woman's needs. And that comes from the biblical perspectives and models of male-female dynamics. So I somehow sense that when a man and a woman are having sex, the man's desire for having his needs met becomes so strong that he may forget that the woman has needs as well. Now, that's all theory on my part. If I was to make this podcast all just about male-male gay sex, I would have a lot to say. I have nothing really to say about female-female sex, and I don't have much to say about male-female sex from an experiential basis. Truth, I have only ever been with one woman. So I have nothing to compare women with other than that. And don't ask me how many men I've been with. That's not a conversation for this podcast. In fact, I'll probably edit that out because now you're already thinking stuff. Okay. So it's a misconception that anybody can have sex with anybody else. That's just not true. That's just not true. Whether you are a man attracted to men or a man attracted to women, or you are a woman who's attracted to men or a woman who's attracted to women, you know that you are not sexually interested in everyone of the gender with whom you are drawn. You know, I have a good buddy, Rob, that I've been friends with for almost 20 years now. And we often kind of laugh and joke that we'll see someone or meet someone new, or one of us is having a conversation with someone new and show a picture. Oh, don't you think he's cute? Isn't he handsome or something? And whichever one of us is asking, the other one says, "Ooh, no," because what I'm drawn to and what my friend Rob is drawn to are completely different. Completely different. His type and my type are completely different. And we kind of laugh about that because I'll say, "Oh, he is just so adorable. He's so sweet." And Rob will say, "Ugh, not at all." Or my friend Rob will say, Isn't he hot?" And I'll say, "Ooh, gross." No. So it's a misconception that everyone is sexually compatible with everyone of the gender that to whom they are drawn. Okay. Point number 4. Do what I say, not what I did. Now, I am well aware of the conversation and the teaching, true love waits, wait till you're married before you ever have sex. And the number one problem I have with that is in every situation where someone has said that to me, they're telling me to do something that they did not do. They did not do. People that say, wait until you're married before you have sex. And then the people telling me that did not. I think one of the saddest, most terrible things that could ever happen is two people who have waited till their wedding night to have sex, and then finding out they are not sexually compatible. And one has a terrible headache and just wants to go to sleep. And the other one goes into the bathroom, takes a shower, and cries. So, in the Bible, what the Bible says, the man would take the object of his desire into his tent and lie with them. And if they were compatible and he was pleased, he could claim them as his spouse. And if not, they could say, hey man, this didn't really work. Or hey gal, this really didn't work. High five. Let's go get some tacos. Now, in the case where people waited until their wedding night to experience each other's bodies and they were compatible, fireworks. Tacos for everybody, forever and ever. Amen. But what about the cases where that's not? So, I hate to say it, but I don't think waiting for sex until your wedding night is always the right thing. I'm going to get real personal here. And some of you watching this will be able to figure some stuff out. Once upon a time, I met someone who I went to church with. And we started talking beyond the church friendship. And we decided, let's explore dating. So we went on a date. We were enjoying each other's company. We had a good time. Thought, wow, wouldn't this be cool? Two gay men who met in church and then decided to date. This is the best of all situations. We're gay. We met in church, not somewhere else. We kind of like each other. Let's date. So we had one date. It was good. Second date. We were going out to eat. He had reservations. I met him at his house. And I started thinking, okay, what if we date? We develop stronger feelings for each other. At some point, we engage sexually. What if we're not compatible? That'd be so terrible. So I met him at his house, and I said to him, you know, I've known you for a while. I've known you at church. I like you. I think you like me. We get along together. But we don't even know if we're sexually compatible. And if we're not sexually compatible, this can't really go further and be lasting. He said, well, you're right. We'll figure that out. We'll figure it out when the time comes. And I looked at him and said, let's find out now. And we did. So we ended up missing his reservation, but they let us in later. And it's like, okay, if we're not sexually compatible, this isn't going to work long term if what we both want is a loving and sexual relationship. Not love without sex and not sex without love. So the end of the story is we dated for about 7 months after that. Turns out we were not spiritually compatible, even though we met in church. So, I say that for there to be success, optimal success in relationship, there's a quadrifecta of compatibility. Intellectual compatibility, spiritual compatibility, emotional compatibility, and physical compatibility. You need all four. So, I am not the strong proponent of waiting for true love to find out if you're sexually compatible. Do I believe that true love and sexual compatibility is the goal? Yes. But I do know that not everyone is sexually compatible with everyone of the gender to whom they are drawn. That's just fact. Okay, let's move on to my final point, my point 5. There are 2 goals of sex. Sometimes the goal of sex is orgasm. Sometimes the goal of sex is an act of love. And when those 2 things are together, it's good. Now, if 2 people are sexual with each other and one of them has a goal of act of love and the other one's only has a goal of orgasm, they're not traveling down the same path, even if sexually they're compatible. Your goals of sex need to be compatible as well. Now, can there be two people who really love each other and are really sexually compatible? Can there be times when they're very animalistic and they're both in it for the orgasm in that moment? Absolutely. And are there times when the couple can be in a sexual activity and it's very relaxed and slow and it's only about the act of love and the goal is not orgasm? Absolutely. And that's where we get to what I feel has been missing in all religious teaching or religious ignoring of sex. Sex and love connected, and that being a prerequisite for the relationship and the marriage of success. All of that connectedness is where it's at. So, I am not Dr. Ruth. I am Dr. Larry Ponder, although my doctorate is not in human sexuality. My doctorate is in educational leadership. And it is true, this content lies outside of my educational expertise. But I am a human man. I am a human gay man. And I have some experiences, and there are some things that I know to be true. I hope you have engaged in this in areas where we disagree. Well, if you and I are not in a sexual relationship, then our agreement on this does not matter. Although I do believe I am right on point. If I did not agree with myself, I would change my mind so that I could agree with myself, because I like to agree with myself. And don't be surprised when I agree with myself. Thank you for watching. I love and appreciate you. Thank you for being part of my world in words to ponder. See you on the next one.